Recently, I've had a bit of a thing for Panerai watches. There's something about them that has just captured my attention in more recent times. So I've gone out and tried a few of them on and I've found that they're quite nice and they're quite interesting, but at the price that they are, for how often I'd probably wear them, it doesn't really make much sense to me, which is why I then went onto AliExpress and has started trying some of the more super affordable homage versions of them, and they've been okay too. But often when I come into these sort of situations where I'm sort of looking at a luxury watch, but trying some sort of more affordable watches, often I have the thought, is there something in between? Is there something that's been made, possibly from maybe a micro brand or another brand that perhaps I haven't looked at before, that sort of is halfway in between the two? The quality is there, but the price is a little bit low. And that's when I came across the brand that I think fits this particular scenario, and that is Grumpo Gamma. Hello, you're watching James. My name's James, you're watching me, and I am talking about watches, and I'm talking about Grumpo Gamma, which sounds like a slightly odd name, but when you look into it and see why it's called that, it makes a lot more sense, because this particular brand was founded in around 2013, and from my understanding it is just a well-established micro brand that has got a bit of a following. And it's called Grumpo Gamma because it's named after the Italian frogmen unit, which was actually named Grumpo Gamma. And they're sort of leaning into that sort of tradition of those sort of style watches with a little bit of a vintage flair to them, just kind of like Panerai is. Now, these watches that they produce are not Panerai homages specifically, but they are definitely, in my mind, slightly influenced by them, which is why I've been starting to look at them recently, and why I've been digging down into the brand today. And their Peacemaker model is the one that really captured my attention and drew me towards this brand. This is probably the most Panerai-esque looking watch from their collection. Some of their others are less Panerai-esque, but this is the one that I sort of looked at because I was going down this sort of pathway. And these watches look like they're really well made. They're powered by hand-winding Swiss movements. And there's something about them that really captures my attention because of the style, because of the quality, and although they're not particularly cheap watches, they're a lot more affordable than those Panerais that I was looking at. Now, I haven't been able to get hands-on with the Peacemaker, but I've been able to borrow the Vanguard. Vanguard is one of their other ranges of watches, and this is probably one of their earlier generations, and it's been great to get hands-on with it, just to get an understanding of the quality of these watches. And if you get an understanding of one of their watches, then you get a bit of an idea of what all their watches are going to be like, at least from a quality perspective. And this one here is actually not my watch. This one was borrowed from a subscriber and a friend of mine called Mark. Thank you, Mark, for lending me yet another watch. It has been fantastic to get hands-on with a watch from this particular brand. And it's pretty obvious when you handle this watch that this is a well-made watch. It has been well put together and it has been well thought out. They've used materials like the strap, they've used design language that has sort of come together to make a really well-made watch, which really feels like that when you've got it on wrist. But it is a larger watch, and a lot of their watches on the website, including that Peacemaker, are larger watches. This Vanguard, the case itself, without those crown guards, is 44 millimeters, and the width of the watch, or the height of the watch, is 13.4 millimeters. The lug to lug is 53.7, which is quite big, but to offset that and to make it sort of look a little bit better on wrist, you'll see the lug width is 24. It sort of then balances the size of it when it sits on your wrist. But you can tell it's a big and chunky watch because it is 136 grams. But even though those dimensions are large, and even though I only have a 17 centimeter wrist, you can see it actually sits down okay on wrist. It is a large watch, and I don't say that it is not a large watch, because it is. And a lot of these style watches, even when you try on these Panerai watches, there are larger watches. And I don't mind larger watches, but it needs to be the right watch, and it still needs to sit down on my wrist. And as you can see with these shots here, I think it actually sits okay. It is certainly pushing the boundaries of my wrist size, but the design of it, the case shape of it, and the quality of it, I think actually I'm able to just pull it off. So what has been confirmed with these watches by having some hands-on experience with it is the quality of them. And that is kind of what I expected when I was looking on their website, looking at the different range of models that they have available, looking at the materials that sort of seem to be used, the movements that they're using, and then their price structure, because some of them are semi-affordable and some are slightly less affordable, but not certainly in that sort of luxury price category. Because when you're looking at the Peacemakers, they seem to be around a couple of grand in AU dollars, but they seem to be sort of a quality that perhaps really matches that sort of price range. And it's nice to see, like this Vanguard that I've got hands-on experience with, that they are powered by ETA movements, which really does give me a little bit of a sense of quality, and it sort of then justifies those prices a little bit more. Now, looking in depth at this watch a little bit more, although this is not a specific review about it because this is one of their previous generations, I just wanted to show you it in a little bit more detail just to get you understanding this brand a little bit more, just like I have, so that I now know if I ever decide to order a watch from this company, what I was going to expect to have. And looking at the dial, you'll see that there's that fading sort of colorway, which gives it something a little bit extra, and those big long hands, which I do really enjoy, with that inner raised chapter ring. It only takes certain small elements to add to a watch which sometimes really make it pop, and things just like that sort of raised chapter ring is something that I really like. But there is something a little bit weird about this one, and I'm not sure why this was chosen, and it is that solid bezel there, because you would expect that bezel looking like that to not move. However, it does. You can move that bezel. It is a unidirectional 120 click bezel, which actually has fairly good action to it, but I'm not sure why it is a moving bezel, because I'm not sure how, with no markings, you would actually be able to then use that for any timing. Turning the watch over, you'll see that the reel has some really nice etching with that Grumpy Gamma logo on there, and that strap. I mentioned it earlier, there is something really extra special, and in a watch that's going to cost a little bit extra, you want the strap to be good. And this is one of the best leather straps I've actually ever come across. Really nice on wrist, really feels like it suits this price sort of range. And this is a watch you can actually wear a lot. Even though it's got a leather strap, it does actually have 200 meters of water resistance as well. So it's going to be able to be worn a lot. It's going to be solid on your wrist, and it's going to feel like it's something that you can wear every day. But it wasn't a specific review of this specific watch, because being a previous generations, it's probably not going to be a watch that's going to be out there regularly for sale. But I really wanted to draw your attention to not only this brand, but the feel, the looks, and the quality, and their sort of designed language, because it is a brand that has captured my attention, and it has just been so good to actually get some hands-on and on-wrist experience with this brand. Guys, if you've heard of any other brands that perhaps are not as well known, but look something rather interesting, rather specific, something fun, please let me know in the comments, because I'm always out there looking for other brands to come across, because there is so many out there that you just don't find unless you happen to randomly stumble across them or somebody recommends them to you. So a lot of these videos that I make, I am kind of trying to get that sort of knowledge out there, because if I find something that's cool, I want to share it with you, so perhaps you can think it's quite cool as well, and you may end up finding it's a perfect watch for you. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Maybe check these videos out next.